There is one party in American politics that is always assumed to be on the side of big business and Wall Street. You can expect that during every election season, the ads will start playing, showing fat guys in suits, smoking cigars in back rooms, and making deals with Republican politicians. But is that really true? Reports say that financial executives are lining up behind Hillary to support her in this next presidential election. What's happening to the U.S. economy and American politics that is causing Wall Street to align with Democrats? Right now, we'll check in with Michelle Moons here in studio and also with Ryan Girdusky on the line with us from New York City. Michelle and Ryan, welcome to Smart Life. Good to have you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gina.
The Democrats actually are raking in the cash, Michelle and Ryan. And Michelle, I'm going to go to you first. Why do you think that the American perception is so much that it is always the Republicans raking in the cash from Wall Street?
I think that that's what the media sells us. They try and the mainstream media goes out and says, this is who is giving to the Republicans, and they're the ones on the side of crony capitalists. And really, if you look into the details, you've got 29 of 30 Dow companies giving to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan, I want to ask you this too. Last election, we saw most of the money on Wall Street, very disproportionately actually, going to Obama. But nobody seemed to know that except folks like you and I who have to go do commentary on these kinds of things. What is it about Obama that has caused Wall Street to join forces with him?
Well, it's Obamanomics. President Obama was very much a corporate cronyist. He supported using the power of government to advance business interests and not the free market. And as your other host, as your other guest was saying that many of the Wall Street firms give to the Clinton Foundation, that 5 of the top 10 biggest donors to Hillary's OA campaign were Wall Street firms.
Yeah. Michelle, you brought up Hillary's campaign as well. She's not even officially running yet. How is it that all this cash is already flowing to her if there's no campaign to even be donating to?
Well, a lot of these companies can give to things like the foundations, and she then in turn over time has done favors for, say, Boeing won a contract with Russian government, and while she was Secretary of State, she was pushing for that. And right after they won that contract, about 2 weeks later, Boeing gave $900,000 to the Clinton Foundation. And so you see how the money runs between them. There's also, as we look to last night on 60 Minutes, there was a segment that was a replay, but it was with Peter Schweitzer. And he talked about these leadership PACs when they're in office, when these congressmen and women are in office, that they can start these leadership PACs that take in money that don't abide by the same rules that their traditional campaign committees abide by.
Yeah, and she's bringing up Peter Schweitzer, a great writer. He wrote the book Throw Them All Out, done a lot of work alongside Peter Schweitzer. And he's actually been successful in getting some of the most corrupt, including Republicans, by the way, out. This is a nonpartisan issue, it really is. But in terms of just election analysis, Michelle, what does this really mean for Republicans? Is this as devastating? We know money can buy elections. We know that. We've seen it again and again. The elite in D.C. count on the populace being very influenced by last-minute ad campaigns and big money spent on commercials. So how devastating is it now that Wall Street has really seemed to have lined up behind Hillary?
It depends on who runs on the Republican side. Now, I know that Hillary's not officially declared, but we really know, we look at Hillary as their top in polls and everything. We know that she's going to be running unless something monumental happens. Also on the establishment Republican side, they're pushing Jeb Bush. And I will say that if Jeb Bush is the nominee, a lot of these companies have said, well, we would go with either one. The people that they're really afraid of are the Ted Cruz's and Rand Paul's that don't as much play the game that some of these other establishment politicians do.
Ryan, going to you, I mean, we know money is important to campaigns, but Wall Street has such a bad reputation. What can the Republicans do to get the money flowing back their direction, and do they want it?
You know, that's interesting, and it's exactly right that if it's between Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton, it's anyone's game. Wall Street wins. If it's between Elizabeth Warren and Rand Paul, then Wall Street loses essentially. I think that we don't really need the money back because who they're backing and the interests that they're backing are not good for the Republican brand, and they're not good for the new Republican populist message that politicians from Mike Lee to David Vitter to Rand Paul have been promoting.
Where's the marketing arm of the Republican Party in this, Ryan? Why doesn't the whole world know that Wall Street and K Street gave more to Obama in the last election by far than they did Romney, who was supposed to be their guy? Why are these things not known? And why doesn't the Republican Party seem to ever even want to bring these things to the surface?
Because a lot of times Republicans, unfortunately, fill the caricature, you know, of being a rich guy, of talking as the party of business.
So is it like a guilty conscience we're talking about here? I mean, is that what's going on? Republicans feel guilty because maybe at least the elite ones in the GOP in Washington, D.C., they've got pretty sweet pocketbooks. Is that what it is? Is this guilt? So they're afraid to say, hey, look, they're taking a lot more money from Wall Street. They're really on the take with big business?
Because I don't think in the Republican Party, it's bad to be the party of business, no matter what kind of business it is. And I'm going to
argue with you, though, on that, Ryan, because I think back to Reagan. And Reagan was the common guy's president, right? He had Joe Sixpack. He had the Union Catholic vote. I mean, Reagan really, he wasn't identified with that Wall Street persona that the Republicans have now become so entrenched with, it seems.
Right. Reagan did it very successfully, but unfortunately, our only Republican president since then is George Bush. And he did not do it successfully, and he was not the best free marketeer.
So we can blame Bush again. I thought that really worked for us, didn't it? Michelle, I want to ask you, as you're watching them start to jockey for position to be the next president, what do you think speaks the most to people with regard to money and business and those things? What does the Republican Party need to do? Do they need to go to the middle? Do they need to stay the course with their own values? Where do they need to be to win this vote back from Obama, who really hasn't given a very good economy? I would think it would be easy to run a campaign against a Democrat right now, but I never feel so sure about that. Tell us what your analysis is.
There are a lot of factors, but I think one of them is reconnecting with the American people, getting back to the grassroots that we've gotten away from in some of the emphasis on fundraising. There's so much emphasis for these candidates on fundraising. So much of their time these consultants tell them they need to spend on fundraising, and really, if they can get back and really connect with people and talk to that small business person, that will be a big part of it. And we don't even know all of who's thinking about running. I mean, there are the names that have been floated out there, but I think if we get away from those big business types, there are people that were involved on the Republican side, even that were involved in TARP distributions, and we don't want to associate with that sort of big business bailout, even this Wall Street bailout sort of activity. But
I mean, Michelle, it doesn't seem like the Republican Party really gets that. I look at the governorship of California, a very influential race. There was a candidate in it for well over a year, Assemblyman Tim Donnelly, and they put up against him someone who voted for Obama. This is in the Republican primary. Someone who not only voted for Obama, but was the father of TARP.
Yes,
apparently the Republicans aren't getting the message. If what you're saying is true, they aren't buying that TARP and those sorts of things are that big of a deal to the American public.
That's where you're seeing a struggle within the party of those establishment Republicans and there's a lot of strategy that goes into it that I won't go into. Obviously, you're familiar with that sort of thing. But yes, they've put up this guy that was the father of TARP, and then you've got the grassroots candidate who has done pretty well and leads in the polls. And so I think if the Republican Party can get back to their values and not keep trying to go to the center, because people are disillusioned with the fact that they're not holding to their principles. Believe in what you're going to believe in and stand for it, and don't try to be Democrats, because then one, what's the point? And two, then why are people going to come out and vote for you if you're just a lukewarm Democrat?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank both Michelle Moons and Ryan Girdusky for being with us today.